I'm just gonna jump in because I don't wanna, I've got too much content already, but I wanna make sure that we have enough time and, energy at the end for you guys to be able to ask questions or for interaction with each other. The times that I learn the most is when we hear from each other and those comments that come afterwards. So the first thing I want to do is I want to read this scripture, Nehemiah 4:14. It's in the leadership Bible. You know that Nehemiah chapter, book of the Bible is all about leadership. And Nehemiah teaches us so much. And he says in 4:14, don't be afraid of them. Remember the Lord who is great and mighty, and fight for your families, your sons and your daughters, your wives and your homes. And I'm not referencing being afraid of our children, but that's probably what you thought. But don't be afraid. I feel like the world would have us be afraid of the future for our kids. I feel like the world would have us, kind of panic. And I just want to encourage you today that I just want to just offer another option, I guess, as far as parenting goes. So I'm gonna just jump right in, and this is what we always start with whenever we do our parenting class, and this is called the hand model of the brain. And I think the first person I've ever heard of that did it was Dr. Daniel Siegel, and he does a lot of brain books for kids and teaches parents a lot about how to help your kids have brain balance. So when I first started about 10 years ago as a foster parent, we began to go to parenting groups for foster parents who had children that came from trauma. So that's where kind of all of this started. And so the struggle for me was that as I was learning this, I'm looking back and I'm thinking, man, I should have known this when I was parenting my kids, the first group of kids that were my biological kids. So hopefully this will help you in some ways, and then just really kind of change some mindset within our hearts. So this is the hand model of the brain, and whenever I do it with the kids, I always bring my eyeballs from my Mr. Potato Head. I think he got canceled, so pretend I didn't say that. But so Mr. Potato, of course, I'm gonna say it again because that's not the one I should say. So the hand model of the brain, it goes like this, and it's really, really simple. I did forget to say this. This is kind of the theme of our whole night together tonight. What gets broken in relationship gets healed through relationship. So we'll be bouncing around on that all night long. So the hand model of the brain, and you don't have to be a neurologist. So the first part of the hand model of the brain is our wrist, and that represents our brain stem, which is our automatic responses. The brain stem is in charge of all the functions in your body that your body needs to stay alive, like breathing, digesting, and circulating blood. So it's important, significant important, but we're not gonna really talk about it too much because it just hangs out for our purposes today. So the inside, your brain is set, so that's why I put the eyes on here so that the kids will understand that this is kind of the way, if your brain is set right here inside of your head, then the front is the frontal cortex, and the center is where your thumb goes inside, and that represents the limbic system. The limbic system is also called the amygdala, the primitive brain. You've heard it called the midbrain, and when we're doing with the kids, we call this the upstairs brain, and then the limbic system is the downstairs brain. So the limbic system is the part of the brain that's involved in our emotional reactions, especially when it comes to behaviors we need for survival. This is where fight, flight, or freeze comes in. So we are being chased, primitive brain, right? So this will say, like, we're being chased by a saber-toothed tiger. We're gonna die. So our frontal cortex flips up and our limbic system goes all active. And when that happens, we have the strength and energy to run away from the saber-toothed tiger in our primitive brain. So today, right now in our current culture, our saber-toothed tiger is the pandemic, right? So as we go through this, I want to make sure that you also know this about these. So when this starts happening, we start to release cortisol and adrenaline. There's other chemicals involved, but today for our purposes, again, we're just going to talk about cortisol and adrenaline. So cortisol and adrenaline is important. Your limbic system is important, but your limbic system is not very smart. It doesn't know the difference between a pandemic and a saber-toothed tiger. It doesn't know the difference between real danger and perceived danger. So our limbic system can be activated by things that aren't necessarily a saber-toothed tiger, a real live danger. It could just be an imagined danger. So you keep that in mind as well. And one of the things that's really significant too is that if our chemicals are being released, these chemicals are constantly being released, over time, it increases our blood pressure, our heart rate goes up, our blood sugar increases, it sends oxygen to the muscles, so it pulls the oxygen away from your brain. And over time, it sustained stress reduces bone density, and it jacks up your immune system. It makes your immune system low. So all of these chemicals, when we needed them the most last year in March, right? When we needed our midbrain, our frontal cortex to work, and all those chemicals, it wasn't working because we were offline. And then all of these issues start coming up with our physical health too. So the next one is, so you have your brainstem, your limbic system, and then your frontal cortex. Your frontal cortex is your thinking center. The frontal cortex is the part of the brain that's responsible for our higher thinking. It regulates, it organizes, it inhibits, it motivates. It's responsible for the flexibility and the shifting. So this is where, because we're adults, we're working on something and the phone rings, we can answer the phone, be cognizant of what's happening, give a response, a good response, hang up the phone and go back to it. That's shifting. And we can do that because our frontal cortex works. Morality, alignment, human alignment, like aligning it with each other and in a group, mindfulness, compassion and empathy is in our higher thinking. Connection, feeling connected and belonging to someone else. Learning, that's where we can learn. Social engagement and interpreting cues. So if you have, you're able to kind of understand that if you're in this group and all of a sudden everybody walks away, you kind of go, I guess we're done. Then responds instead of reacts. So this is where we can make a decent response without reacting in fear. Contemplation is a higher level concept because it is really hard for people that don't have that skill to sit and just think without a phone. And we are really messing ourselves up because we keep doing all the things instead of taking time to contemplate or meditate. Those are all the activities. So those are all activated. All of these things are activated in our frontal cortex during rest and digest. So when we're in fight, flight, or freeze, the saber-toothed tiger's coming, or we get triggered by one of our kids, and we flip our lid, our frontal cortex goes offline, and then our limbic system takes over and decides it's the boss and becomes in charge. All of these cortisol and adrenaline starts going crazy in our body, in our brain, and then our physical body, we can literally feel it. So the more I know this, the more I understand this, the more I can actually feel what's happening in my body and my brain. I can feel what's happening between my kids. We begin to get more attuned. So when you flip your lid and you go offline, then I'm gonna try today to give you some brain hacks to help you bring your connection chemicals. These are all the connection chemicals. The dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, opiates, and endorphins. All of those things make up the connection chemicals. So there's certain things that you can do to activate some of those chemicals. I have a really great resource that I get from the person that trains me in my parenting coaching. So I'll, if you ever want that, you can email me or contact the church or whatever, and I'll give you those things. So, but you want, those chemicals are being released in our body. So it takes about 25 years to grow a frontal lobe. So we are the only mammal that delivers a child that's not fully developed. So if you think of all of these things and you think of your 13-year-old, you're gonna go, oh, no wonder. No wonder they can't get matching shoes, or no wonder they never take a shower. They have no idea. Their frontal cortex is not developed. Your little child, the littlest ones, of course, they can't shift and go, okay, it's time, get your shoes on, let's go. Oh no, I'm playing, I don't want to. They can't shift out of those things. So they have to know, you have to know, like we as parents must know that there's no way for them to do all of these things well because their brain isn't yet fully developed until 25. So even your 18-year-old, and I'm sorry to say, I have one of those. So it is exhausting to regulate yourself, to regulate, organize, inhibit, self-control, thinking, morality, flexibility, going from one thing to the next, self-awareness, and all of that is we're doing it right now for ourselves. And I don't know about you, but that kind of wears me out just managing this right here. I don't know if you guys feel that way, but I often feel that way. I'm not sure if I have everything I need to do it every day. When we do it then for another human, it's even more tiring and it's difficult. And then you add another kid, or you're trying to make these connection chemicals happen between you and your spouse, your family members, all of these things. And you have to work at a job so that you can eat food. So you're interacting with all these people and it's a lot. So when we learn to be an effective, reliable, and reasonable frontal lobe for our kids, we become a substitute frontal lobe for them. So we, all along the way, our brains get in the habit of responding or reacting to what's going around us. So our thoughts, in all of our thoughts, we're laying tracks in our thoughts. And it's like a water going down a hill, and then soon it makes these gullies. Does gully, is that a Georgia word? I don't know if that's a Missouri word. I grew up in Missouri, so that's like a track. So the rain is coming and coming and coming, and it keeps flowing down this one place, and it makes a really deep cavern. And that's the way our brain works, and that's the way our thoughts work. So it makes this gully, and then contributing also to these thought patterns is what's happening socially. It's the pandemic becomes a saber-toothed tiger, and it makes us flip our lid. What's happening physically? Oh, we took a break, and we're not doing so good. We've all been doing fast food. We're not eating right. We're not exercising. We're not really drinking much water. We don't really rest, and now our sleep's messed up. And we start to get sick or we're in pain. And then emotionally, like the anxiety and the depression kind of just starts to rise up within our families and our home. So all of this, all the while, our brains are reacting, and we just go with whatever is a habitual thought pattern. And so a lot of times for me, I don't know if you guys do this, but sometimes I think, okay, I'm already, like my lid is flipped, for sure, and I don't have a chance in the world to get this right today. That, and it really feels like that, and so we get really overwhelmed. So I feel like the solution here the difference that I want to make today is that you would leave here understanding that parenting is not behavior management. And that's what I think that we've all decided, that how do I get them to behave the way that I want them to? So parenting isn't behavior management. It's a connected parenting. It's a connected relationship. So the ultimate goal is to parent within a relationship and parent through connection. We've tried coercion, we've tried yelling, and we've tried manipulation. And we need to do more than just reframe the way that we've always done it and say, okay, we're gonna try to think of it in this way. We have to really change our thinking. We have to change our brains. That's what Linnell was talking about last month with cognitive behavioral therapy. You learn how to behave differently through the way that your brain works, the thought patterns that you have. So, and here's the good news. Okay, I've got a 2-minute video. What ends up happening then is that we had to change the way our brain works. So I want you to, I got 2-minute videos, and they're really short. I tried to keep them really short because I didn't want to go off on tangents. There's so much stuff that is so interesting to me. But this one is on neuroplasticity. So this is the good news.
Not so long ago, many scientists believed that the brain did not change after childhood, that it was hardwired and fixed by the time we became adults. But But recent advances in only the last decade now tell us that this is simply not true. The brain can and does change throughout our lives. It is adaptable, like plastic. Hence, neuroscientists call this neuroplasticity. How does neuroplasticity work? If you think of your brain as a dynamic, connected power grid, there are billions of pathways or roads lighting up every time you think, feel, or do something. Some of these roads are well-travelled. These are our habits, our established ways of thinking, feeling, and doing. Every time we think in a certain way, practice a particular task, or feel a specific emotion, we strengthen this road. It becomes easier for our brains to travel this pathway. Say we think about something differently, learn a new task, or choose a different emotion. We start carving out a new road. If we keep travelling that road, our brains begin to use this pathway more, and this new way of thinking, feeling, or doing becomes second nature. The old pathway gets used less and less and weakens. This process of rewiring your brain by forming new connections and weakening old ones is neuroplasticity in action. The good news is that we all have the ability to learn and change by rewiring our brains. If you have ever changed a bad habit or thought about something differently, you have carved a new pathway in your brain and experienced neuroplasticity firsthand. With repeated and directed attention towards your desired change, you can rewire your brain.
So that's good news. About 4 months ago, I felt compelled. I actually had a pinched nerve in my neck, and I was in pretty much pain, and so I started trying to feel better. And I started trying to manage my health and become a better steward of my health. And so I had been gaining weight pretty consistently over the last 6 years. And I'm getting older, got some hormone challenges. And then as of yesterday, I lost 36 pounds. So I know. So it's good because it feels better. And so last Sunday, some friends come up to me and they said to me, like, so what are you doing to lose weight? And I said, my answer is so counterintuitive. What my answer is I'm doing all the things to lose weight. And it's not like everybody wants that one lever answer, right? You want to go, I just woke up in the morning and boom, every day. I don't know what I was looking for. But the response sounds placating when you go, well, I'm doing all the things. But it's the truth. What I've been doing is I'm eating less, I'm moving more, I'm intermittent fasting, I'm changing the way that I think about food. I'm food tracking and calorie tracking, going to the chiropractor. I'm taking vitamins, using essential oils. I'm trying to go to bed a little bit earlier and getting more sleep. Meditation. I'm doing all the things every day, every week, every day for 4 months. And all the things are all the levers. And I'm pulling all the levers every day. Some days I forget a lever and I got to go back and try to make sure every day I'm pulling all the levers. There's a John Maxwell quote that I love. He says, never underestimate the compounding effect of consistency over time. And to me, that's like the perfect, for me, the understanding that I'm doing all the things, but I have to maintain doing all the things. So we often want a one lever solution for parenting as well, don't we? We want to just go, okay, I know what you need to get them to behave. Give them this magic pill. Just put it in their mouth in the morning. When you go to bed at night, do this, and then the kids will behave so well. So we're always trying to find that one lever solution. And in parenting, this one lever solution is, you use a lever solution for a problem. And parenting is not a problem to solve. It's a relationship to manage, right? This is a relationship with our kids. This is a relationship with our family. And it's not a problem that we can solve with just by pulling a lever. So we have to reframe kind of how we're thinking about it. It is the family, the relationship is spiritual, it's emotional, it's physical, it's psychological, it's also cultural. It's all the things, right? So we got to pull all the levers. So I go back to what we started with. What gets broken in relationship gets healed through relationship. So we know and we've established that parenting is a relationship. It's not simple. It's a relationship. There's two people involved, right? So it makes it really difficult. So if something becomes broken between you and your kid, and you have a relationship problem, not a behavior problem, there's no blame in that. If something becomes broken between you and your kid, you have a relationship problem, not a behavior problem. You gotta be smarter than the TV. Not sure I am. So, and the good news is we just learned through neuroplasticity is that we can change the way that we think. The definition of insanity, you know this? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results, right? So that's the definition of insanity. And if we keep doing it the way that we're doing it, trying to manage behavior, it doesn't repair the relationship. It doesn't fix the relationship. If the relationship is broken, then you heal it through the relationship. That's really different. Like it's it's counteractive. Now, when we were fostering, we would talk about these kids were really broken from a relationship that wasn't even with us, right? So they're broken from their first family. That relationship has been broken. And so the relationship that broke them or me is not, is not the one that necessarily will heal them. So that's the good news about being a foster family, right? We can begin to heal. Or maybe you have been broken, like some of the things inside of your heart, your body, your mind, your soul are kind of jacked up from people who broke you when you were a kid, or along the way you've had some really difficult situations, some trauma even. You have that in your body. It's hard. It makes your brain not work the same way, right? But the neuroplasticity video we just watched tells us that we can change the way that we think. We can change our brains. So because what gets broken in us, in relationship, gets healed through relationship. And the relationship that broke you or broke your kid may not be the one that heals you or your kids. But if it's you and your kid and you're here and you're watching this, it can be. You can heal this. And no, I don't care how bad it is. I promise you that you can heal the relationship between you and your child. So if you're at the end and you think there's nothing left, remember that your brain is neuroplastic. And if you have kids already, then you know about this next video because you already had kids and you've watched. So watch this next one.
Let me take you back to the early 1990s. Sleepy little laboratory in Parma, Italy. And scientists had a MRI brain scanning machine on a macaque monkey as the macaque monkey was trying to open up a nut. They wanted to see how the neurons would light up. So the monkey's trying to open up the nut, the neurons light up. And just by serendipity, and this is how science sometimes happens, a human being walked into the laboratory. I don't know if it was by mistake, and he was hungry. He saw the nuts and opened up one of the nuts and tried to crack it open. The macaque monkey was totally shocked because who was this invader in his laboratory? And he didn't move. He just gazed at this human trying to open up the nut, just like he had done a few seconds earlier. And then the scientist looked on the MRI brain scanner. The same exact neurons were lighting up when he observed the human being opening the nut as when the monkey opened the nut. And the scientists had not a clue as to what this was. They thought the MRI machine had broken. They then began to put MRI brain scanning machines on other primates, especially chimpanzees with our big neocortex. Then they went to humans. And what they found over and over again is something called mirror neurons. And that is that we are apparently soft-wired, some of the primates, all humans. We suspect elephants. We're not sure about dolphins and dogs. We've just begun. But all humans are soft-wired with mirror neurons so that if I'm observing you, your anger, your frustration, your sense of rejection, your joy, whatever it is, and I can feel what you're doing, the same neurons will light up in me as if I'm having that experience myself. Now, this isn't all that unusual. We know if a spider goes up someone's arm and I'm observing it going up your arm, I'm going to get a creepy feeling. We take this for granted, but we are actually soft-wired to actually experience another's plight as if we are experiencing ourselves. But mirror neurons are just the beginning of a whole range of research going on in neuropsychology and brain research and in child development that suggests that we are actually soft-wired, not for aggression and violence and self-interest and utilitarianism, that we are actually soft-wired for sociability, attachment, as John Bowlby might have said, affection, companionship, and that the first drive is the drive to actually belong. It's an empathic drive.
Isn't that cool? That's like everything we need. But you already know this because when you held your baby for the first time and you start talking to them and they look in your eyes, and over a couple days and weeks, and then all of a sudden you stick your tongue out and they look up at you and they go, and you're like, wow, that's awesome. You know, it's the same thing like when you see Zach LeFew and he walks across the room and you think, oh, that's Roy. That's his dad, because he walks like his dad. He resembles him because he's been mirroring him his whole life, you know? And our kids do that with each other and with us. And it's really awesome. But for us to, we need to know that in order to learn, again, to be an effective, reliable, and a reasonable frontal lobe substitute for our kids, we have to do it first for ourselves, right? And so here's the reason why we don't. And when I say we, my hand is up because I struggle. I'm still struggling through this. I've been knowing it. I've been teaching it. We've been doing it together in groups for 3 years now, and I'm still struggling. The reason is triggers. So triggers are stimuli that often causes us to lose control of our own behavior. We overreact or we flip our lid. We have this amygdala hijack, and in these situations, we react instead of respond, and our frontal lobe isn't any use to us. Triggers can be everyday experiences, like you're hungry or you're super tired. They can come from implicit memories, and that you stored. Memories are stored in your limbic system before we even form long-term memories. They can be a feeling attached to a memory. So again, like if you're thinking about feeling broken as a parent, you think about that. Think about some of your memories and how your memories can trigger us. If you have those really hard memories, it does. It makes us, there's a lot of, healing to be done. It could be a sound or a smell, a noise level, the affect of another person, the look on their face. And you might not even be aware of it, but somehow this person walks in the room and you're triggered. You feel yourself become triggered and you don't really understand why. So a lot of times it's because we all resonate. We all have, some people call it a vibe, like that's a vibe that person puts out. In science, it's called emotional resonance. It's like a tuning fork, and you click it, and it resonates a pitch. And we resonate in energy. So regardless of the source of our triggers, it's essential that we recognize what our triggers are, right? And so that we don't get hijacked by our triggers. So when we know our trigger, then we can front load ourselves, and we can, kind of prepare ourselves and manage those triggers and handle it all within our frontal lobe. Self-awareness is a frontal lobe gift, right? Like it's one of the good things about having your brain intact is that you're self-aware and you can manage and go, wow, I really feel this coming up. So parenting pro tip for you, keep track of your triggers so you can manage them better. If you're new at this and you've never really even thought about this, keep track, kind of watch and go, you know what, every time so-and-so comes into my office, I feel myself flip out. Every time my kid brings me or throws a shoe at me, it makes me mad. I had a kid from the back seat throwing her shoes at me. I don't know why, but it did. It was like, I could feel myself like, okay, don't throw stuff at me. So you get it, we all get hijacked. We all get triggered. We all get triggered. If you had the best childhood in the planet, you still get triggered. We all get triggered. So when we get triggered, okay, here's the thing. I want to tell you this. If we're all flying in an airplane and we're all halfway to our destination, and all of a sudden the airplane starts to have turbulence, and you feel the plane rocking and moving, and you're a little bit nervous. The seatbelt light comes on, everybody buckles up. Then the flight attendant will say, everybody remain in your seat. We're having a lot of turbulence right now. Now, I want you to imagine, how would you feel if right in that moment, the pilot walks out of the front of the plane and says, "Oh, hey everybody, we're having a lot of weather issues. We got a lot of turbulence, and I'm not really sure what I should do. So what do you guys think? Do you think I should descend a little bit, maybe lower the altitude and kind of go under the storm? Or what do you guys think? Should I maybe go above the storm? Or maybe I should just turn around and go back? What do you guys think? What do you want, what would you be doing?" But I'd be going, "I think you should fly the plane because I don't know how to fly the plane. And I think somebody needs to be in charge because this plane's going down if you don't fix this, So you're going to be the one that's going to say, fly the plane." And that's exactly what our kids are doing every time we flip our lid. They're saying to themselves, "I don't have a chance to get this right. I don't have a chance to calm down. There's no way I can. She can't even do it. He can't even do it. He can't control himself. Why does anybody think I can control myself?" So with her coaching, and her name is Jennifer Kalari, and she has created this model called the CALM method. And the CALM method is a practice in mental health. So mental health is a practice. It's pulling all the levers. None of us are good at it, and we all have to manage it. It's the same as when I was dieting. Or as I'm dieting, as I'm not dieting, I'm I'm pulling all the levers. It's the same concept. We're not our mental health by doing all the things. We gotta eat, right? We need to move our bodies. We need to have rest time and quiet time. We need to drink water, all of those things. We can go back and say, okay, we're having a relationship issue right now, so I'm gonna connect her CALM method. There is connect before you correct. All of those connection chemicals are being released in your brain, right? You are look over and your child is not. So as you connect before and you get those connection chemicals going in their body, and they're mirror oxytocin and serotonin. Isn't that awesome? And tight. So once you get those chemicals rolling, then it begins to de-escalate the behavior and then interrupt the behavior. When anyone around you needs to calm down, never say calm down. When you say calm down, never in the history of calm downs has anyone ever calm down by being told to calm down. So that never works. In fact, that makes me flip my lid and go a little bit crazy. So I just want to warn you, don't say calm down. Okay. So we're going to engage our kid's brain, and we're going to leave our agenda. And this is the one that I have to have all my resources working, and I've got to focus because I got to put my phone down. I've got to forget that we're supposed to be at the school in 5 minutes, and you're freaking out over your shoes because that's what I want to go, what is wrong with you? But instead, we don't say what is wrong with you. Another thing I don't say anymore, what is wrong with you? So you engage your kid's brain, and you leave your agenda. You go, okay, we're probably going to be late for school this morning. It's okay. It's okay. We're gonna leave our agenda, leave our phone, and we're gonna make eye contact. So if your kid is small, you get down. If your kid is 18 and 6'2" like mine, you look up, make eye contact with your kid, and as soon as you make eye contact, those mirror neurons start flying. It's crazy. This totally works. You make eye contact and you breathe. Look at your child. And this is another mirroring thing that is so amazing to me. I look at this child, whichever child it is, any of them, there's 5. Any of them, I can look at them in the eye. Even on my oldest son is in Seattle or in Washington State, and he is an Army Ranger, and he will call me sometimes. And when he just wants to be connected, and he'll look at me on the phone, and he'll look at me in the eyes, and I can feel it. He can feel it. He doesn't know. I know now, but it's crazy. So it doesn't matter. Wherever you are, look in the eyes. Those chemicals start flowing, and then you breathe, and you look at them and just go. It's crazy. I can't even tell you. It doesn't have to be a lot. You can start with this tiny little thing, and I promise you're gonna see a major difference right away with the ability of your child to calm down. You're giving them a life skill. They can calm themselves then, later on. So you're gonna engage their brain, leave your agenda, make eye contact, and be on their level. And one of my kids I touch. One of my kids, I get hands, and I have to hold hands because that's whatever the touch really kind of brings her back. Then you're gonna do affect matching. You're gonna borrow your kid's urgency. You're going to try to resonate their frequency. Remember, we all have a frequency, and we're gonna energy match. And then you're gonna make your face neutral or match theirs. So either try not to have too much expression at all. For me, I gotta really watch that because I am very expressive and I wanna go, woo, and you really have to try. Make your face neutral. You had to energy match their frequency, borrow their sense of urgency. You get down and you get to where they're wrong, and you listen to them, you say, tell me what's happening. And the child says, my shoes don't fit anymore. You're like, they fit yesterday, wow. So you start having this conversation and you understand, like, they're in pain. They have a face on they feel urgent, like it hurts because my shoes don't fit. And they feel that way. So you match that energy and you get that same sense of urgency. I called it frenzy. So, because then it was an F, right? Match face, frequency, and frenzy. Okay, so anyway, I just made frenzy up. Hopefully they're not too much in a frenzy. And by then you've already breathed, so they're calming down. So, and then you make your face neutral or you match their face. You don't want to be too crazy, like make your face over the top, you know what I mean? So just try to match all that energy. And then the next thing you're gonna do is listen, and really listen to what the child is saying. You've already put your agenda away, you're already gonna be late, right? We're already gonna be late for the game. We're already gonna be late for church. So just put it away and really listen to what the child is saying. And we have rules in this moment. We say you cannot yell. I don't expect them to be sweet and speak sweetly and kindly necessarily, but they can't be loud. They can't be whiny. And then we have to drop our observational language. We're not doing our customer service voice. So I understand you have a problem. We're not doing the customer service voice. So then you're really listening, and you're dropping your observational language, and then you're gonna paraphrase, clarify, question, or wonder out loud. So sometimes you have a 13-year-old who's having a fit. They came in and like their brother was outside and looked at him, and the 13-year-old walks in and goes, "Mom, he looked at me. I hate him. He's so mean." And then you're like, oh. So you really feel like you just do all the connection. You take a minute to breathe, and then you say, so you're really feeling angry at your brother because he looked at you. I wonder if this is because you just saw all your girlfriends walk down the sidewalk to the park and they didn't invite you. So you can wonder out loud. For the older kids, wondering out loud is really good. You don't tell them what they're feeling, but you wonder out loud if whatever you've observed might be applicable here. Or you can, paraphrase. With the smaller kids, paraphrasing works really great. So you feel really mad that you got cut off on the computer, and you're out of time. You feel really mad about that. And yes, that's what I just said. I'm really mad because you took the computer, or whatever it is. So you're paraphrasing, you're clarifying what is wrong, you're questioning, so you can even say, tell me some more about that, give me more words, and then wonder out loud. And then the next thing is mirroring. So you're reflecting now like a mirror. You're getting, the mirror neurons are flowing. You're showing the true understanding of the feeling that your kid has. And then that becomes brain food, right? Like we're nourishing our brain and our body because it's better to have connection chemicals flowing through us physically, right? So this is so counterintuitive. It is so counterintuitive to me because I'm in a rush and I'm ready to go, and I really don't need you slowing me down. I'm fast and furious. And I know, Deanna, you're fast and furious too. So it's hard for those of us. And I mean, it's for most of us, it's not natural to just to keep our head in check, But we can do it. We can totally do it because our brains are neuroplastic and we already have the connection chemicals going. So we can do this. It takes practice, and remember, it's a relationship. It's not a problem to solve. It's not easy, and it takes time for us to change our reactions, and for our it takes a while for those tracks that are laid in our brains to change. It takes a little bit. You saw how it did it on the video. It took a minute, and to get rid of the old ways and to try these new ways. Fly the plane and be the captain. Go ahead. Fly the plane, just be in control. Control yourself, and then as you control yourself, the behavior starts to change. Even the tiniest little bit of mirroring goes a long way. And when a child feels validated and heard, then their connection chemicals flow, and then you get their bounce back of that oxytocin and those good connection chemicals. So the final thing and the most important, and this is what sold me on this whole idea of changing the way that we parent through relationship instead of behavior management, is repair. I cannot possibly nail it 100% of the time. I'm thanking God if I got it 50% today, if I did a couple really good responses and I'm feeling good. And every day I'm pulling levers. I'm doing everything I can to try to make sure that along the way I'm doing all the things. And it's hard. It's really hard to change all of that. And you're gonna make a mistake. And here's the truth that sets us free. The truth is, you're gonna make a mistake, and if you don't, it's not good for your kids anyway, right? We talk about lawnmower parenting. Lawnmower parenting is when you plow everything down that's difficult in their way, and you get everything out of the way so they have a smooth ride. That's not good. That's not necessarily the best way, right? We talk about, hover parenting, the helicopter parenting, or free range parenting where you just sit back and go, good luck, hope it all comes out, come in for dinner, That's not necessarily a great idea either, right? So we're talking about all these different kinds of parenting methods that we see around us, and we start to do what other people are doing, and we start to go, well, I think I'm okay, right? Because we're all doing it like that. And then all of a sudden you go, well, you know what, that's not really working. My kid's still not behaving. Like there's, she's 6 and there's still fits going. What's the deal, This kid is too old to be wetting their pants, And again, we're talking, for those foster parents. I know there's a couple, and there's some of my friends that foster online tonight. And if they're foster kids, it's a whole different deal, and it's a lot slower, but you can still heal through relationship. And sometimes we got to go back and start doing these things over and over and over again so that we can heal some of the damage that we've done along the way, because we didn't know better. When we know better, we can do better, right? So we can heal this. And so repair is so important, and repair releases connection chemicals too. So repair is actually just as important as doing it right the first time. And you're giving them skills, and you're building resilience in your children's brains. So the first thing about repair, remember I said never say calm down. Also, never use the word but when you're doing repair. You have to be very intentional, be cognizant, like you need to kind of think through it, especially if it's new to you, to go, okay, I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna do it now while we're calm. Everybody's calmed down. We're gonna try to do it that day, especially the younger they are, the sooner you wanna try to get to the repair and get yourself back online. You're gonna be consistent in the way that you do it. You're gonna try to remain neutral. You're not gonna cry, not gonna be angry, and you can't go, well, I wouldn't have been that way if you had, but you triggered me. We can't do any buts. We had to just own whatever we did, because you're training this whole process in repair is training them to repair their relationships too, right? So you're giving them this amazing life skill. You're gonna be neutral, and you're gonna use common language. Use the word trigger. It's okay. That's a great word for them to know for their future relationships, right? So use the common language, the words that you want to use in your family. Man, I really flipped my lid. Maybe you want to say that. And then the kids will know. My kids know. Oh man, I'm sorry, you guys. Or usually I do it one-on-one with the kids if there's a whole group of them. If I'm smart, I'll stay close to Michael while I'm having a little moment. The other night I was mad at all of them. I was like, okay. And then he just quietly, after I'm done with my little rant, he lays his hand on my hand and he goes, that was really well. That was really good. You explained yourself very well. Like, okay, that's enough. He's such a great partner. I know I'm a little intense maybe. Okay, so apologies. Apologies come in 3 parts always, and we should train our children from very little how to apologize correctly and how to receive an apology correctly. 3 parts. I apologize for flipping my lid. I will try not to flip my lid again. I will try not to let that thing trigger me. I didn't say you triggered me. I said I will try not to let that trigger me. I apologize. I will try not to do it again. And will you forgive me? And again, you're connecting because you're eye to eye, you're face to face on this, and you say, will you forgive me? And their response, you should train your children to respond like this. Not, it's okay, mommy. It's not okay for someone to yell at you. It's not okay. And I don't want my little girls to go out in the big wide world and meet a man that yells at them and think, it's okay. He just flipped his lid. It's okay. I want them to know, no, that's not okay. So their response needs to be, I forgive you. That's it. Practice that language. It becomes common language, and it becomes easier when you can do it well, and it becomes more and more genuine when you practice it. So I just want to really encourage you, make them have words back to you and teach them to do that. It feels weird, sort of counterintuitive, like, well, I'm apologizing. I can't tell you to say, I accept your apology, or I forgive you, whatever. You can't, it's weird, it feels weird, but you need to teach them. This is the premise behind it all. You know, all of discipline is discipleship, the root word discipleship. Discipline is the root word of discipleship, and that means training. So all of parenting, all of relationship with our kids is training. We're training them how to respond instead of react. And it's not gonna go easy because their brains aren't ready. They're not fully developed, right? So we're gonna, as we do this and as we repair, we're gonna build that emotional resilience in them. They don't collapse because you've blown it. They don't collapse on the floor when their boss yells at them at their first job. They've been well yelled at by me, right? That's how I feel like my son is great in the Army, because I was his mom. You're welcome. Before I knew all this, of course, yeah. But it builds emotional resilience. And then if you have kids from hard places, kids that have had traumatic past, you're building trust in them. And boy, that's a big skill. That's a big thing. And if you have older kids and you have maybe broken their trust and they have been a little bit of afraid of you, maybe you do this more and more and more, and you do that repair work, and it builds the trust in your heart. It builds the trust in their heart, and they begin to, begin to heal. Their brain feels better. They flip their lid less. They're able to self-regulate and manage their own big feelings. You can't be perfect, and if you do, you're gonna mess them up, right? Because the world's not perfect. You also don't have to have a bad moment to have mirroring. You can mirror with your child after they've done something really amazing. Man, you did it. You drove the car by yourself. I'm so proud of you. That's awesome. Look in the eyes and breathe with them and just celebrate them. And all of those things bring those mirror neurons online too. Then here's the magic. After you've done all of the things, all of the calm technique, and then you do the repair work and you start to live this out, what happens is the behavior changes. You're so connected with your kid that they just put their shoes on because they love you. Because it's not that they didn't love you before, but they feel they're not in fight, flight, or freeze. They don't feel like they have to run away, hide, or fight, right? So their connection chemicals are back online. They're in their limbic brain. They're able to rationalize, be able to become self-aware. Oh, when I do that, it makes a mess out of the whole day. Or I don't feel good after that, And then I have to, all these things that come in their mind little by little, especially the littler they are. It takes a long time, but you make those connection chemicals flow in their head and in your head, and pretty soon the behavior changes come. You're not reacting, so you're not triggering them. And you're responding now instead of reacting. And it really is. I'm telling you, it's over a time. I want to go through three more things before we do questions, and if you have anything you want to say. We have to create safety in the conflict. So if you're in a conflict, especially if your child is a little bit older and it has been to the point where it's been agitated and your kid is now 13 and throwing their shoes at you, I hope that doesn't happen. But if that does happen, then you're triggered too. So it's really hard to stay calm when there's somebody fighting. So the very first and most important thing is to always keep safety in all the conflicts. It's also counterintuitive because generally if there's some kind of yelling or violence or anger, some kind of altercation, then it is really hard to bring that down. You need to teach them conflict management. You got to start learning to interrupt it sooner. We got to get to the place of connection a little bit faster. We could talk about more of those things. It is not safe for your kids or you if everyone is screaming or being, aggressive. So it's not good for you. You can from your children, you could literally have secondary trauma from your kids, especially in foster situations when you have children who are really offline and just really, limbic. You have to take care of yourself and make sure you're safe. If you're not safe, you need to get help and make sure that you really get some intervention and learn some new skills, and maybe help the kid learn some new skills. The other thing that's really important is to individuate. You want to make sure that each of your kids are individual. They're individuals. So, like I said, I have one that I'll hold hands with. I have one that even in their triggers, will throw a fit and, get on the floor or scream and be, agitated. And then I have one who, when he is when he's in fight, flight, or freeze, he hides, and that's his response. And so we've had to really work on him coming to me. Even one time he hurt himself really bad in the lobby at the church, and he was bleeding from his head, and he went and hid. And that's just the way he was. So my way to connect with him has to be different than the way that I connect with the other children, right? So, and then each of them are different. Some of them, their vocabulary, depending on the age, but also just their intelligence, the vocabulary's better, so we can have, real life conversations. One of my kids said to me, I feel like, the other day, he said, Mom, I feel like our, I don't remember, we were having this conversation about something, and he said, I feel like our relationship has we have enough relational capital right now that we can handle this. I was like, wow, that's good. It's really good. So, because we've been investing in the relationship and making those deposits and trying to keep it going. And I was pretty impressed that he said that right back to me, because I've said that to him several times. So you have to individuate. You have to make it safe, individuate. And then sometimes parents are really frustrated when we have these conversations, because they go but where are the consequences? When do you punish them? And again, there's this isn't, consequences are still happening. You do them consistently, you do them naturally. So a natural consequence when you throw your shoes is to go pick them up. And I don't care how long it takes, because my agenda's put aside. So get them picked up, put them away, Or, I won't tell that story. So natural consequence, you make a mess, you clean it up. That's a natural consequence. And then meaningful consequences that are meaningful and that are timely and appropriate for the offense. They're front-loaded, which front-loading is when you tell the kid in advance what they're gonna do and what you need and their expectations. They're front-loaded, and they're delivered when you're neutral and you're able to mirror. And mirroring is discipleship. Again, we're giving discipline, and that's training. So it feels different. I did struggle. My biological kids, we spanked, me more, and not really much after they were in preschool. But then we had foster kids, and I have a foster kid, and you don't spank your foster kids, and plus it's not going to be helpful anyway from a kid that lost their first family. So I didn't know. I went to the therapist. I was like, this is our trauma therapist. I was like, I don't know. I want to spank her because that's what I know to do. And she's like, well, we don't need to do that. And she taught me this. And that's why I say, I could have been doing this all along. I didn't know I didn't need to. So there are consequences. The children need adversity. Mirroring is not rescuing. It's not being the lawnmower parent or taking all the troubles out of the way. It's supporting them while they practice using their tools. And in advance that they're gonna make a mess, and sometimes they're not gonna do it, and then you're gonna go back and repair, and you're gonna reframe. You're giving them opportunities for adversity so they can manage themselves. And a lot of parents end up, if I talk to them about this, they'll say, I don't have time to do all that, we gotta go. And I say back, you don't have time not to do that, because this is a relationship, not behavior management, right? So that's just the bottom line. So they won't need to be co-regulated by anybody else if they are regulating themselves. And it takes, some kids take longer, and you don't have to feel bad about that, depending on the kid and the nature of their, their own relationship and what has been broken in their relationships. But I want to really encourage you to think about that again. And I think, what gets broken in relationship gets healed through relationship. And so that's the other good thing about being married. If you're a single parent, it's really hard, but you find that's where you get in a group and you find somebody else to connect with that will challenge you and that will help you to heal yourself as you heal your kids. And when you heal yourself, you heal your children's children. That's really true. Thank you, Jesus. Amen.